Hey crew. All right, so we're gonna start off with our black. This is it right here. I'm just gonna spray off a little bit here on the side. Nice little stream that comes out. Now, with our handy dandy Spraycasso tool, we're just gonna tap into it. And let's begin. All right, I think I'm gonna start off with, we always start off with the terrain. So I'm gonna start off with a nice little terrain. I'm probably gonna add right about here. And more. This is done on a canvas screw. What we're doing here is we're just smearing, kind of adding our details in. Alright, so I've selected my light blue. Here we go. I'm just going to add some light layers in the background. Now see, what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I get the 1 inch that we have on the side of our canvas. This guy right here. So I'm just going to go through, do the top, do the side, and then just kind of bring it in. Now notice I really don't mind too much that the color is coming on top of the layers that we just added. That's okay. I intend on adding some plant life to the background, perhaps some more rocks, so I'm okay with it. Usually I tell everybody that whenever you're starting your spray painting, you want to make sure that you add your background layers first and then your terrain layers on top. In this case, I kind of know already what I'm going to do, so I don't mind adding the rock terrain first and then adding a little bit of that overspray on top of it. Okay. Alright, now here on the side, I have a couple different sizes of the Spraycasso funnels. See that? I think I'm going to use this one. This one is pretty good. I'm checking out the width, the length, the way that the paint's going to come out. See, this one is pretty thick, so this one is going to give me a really thick branch coming out. I think this one's going to be a little bit smaller, and since we're doing trees that are going to be a little bit further away, I'm going to use this one. I think this is the best move for it. Alright, a little bit of black. Awesome. Now we're going to go through here and just add some trees here in the background. Maybe one here. Maybe one way back here. Alright crew, do you guys remember a technique that we used? And that was, I'm going to use again light blue right here off on the side. I'm going to use our little handy dandy sea sponge. I'm going to tap tap tap. Let's see what my pattern looks like. Alright. No, that's still too much. That's good. Alright, so now I'm going to create the effect that there's tree leaves here in the background. Now, I'm going to mix maybe a little bit of white into our mixture just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. Okay, just going to tap here, create a little bit of that background tree leaves. Alright, tap tap tap. Now you do want to overlap some of the branches that you created. Now notice also I'm not adding a whole lot of detail to the trees in the background. So I haven't added any bark or any other fine details that would define these as a pretty detailed trees. And that's because I have an idea. I'm going to blend these into the background, but I still want them to be detailed enough to where people know what's going on back there. I'm just going to add a few more tree leaves back here. Alright, I like the way this is coming out. So now, a little bit of black. Remember guys, black and white is our neutral color. Neutral color. Just means that it's very versatile. You can use it for background terrains, you can add other layers on top of it. Alright, I'm just gonna tap through here. And maybe add a few more layers back here. Now I know these layers are a little bit darker than the layers that we previously added, but that's the beauty about painting, right? Is that it constantly morphs into something else. Sometimes when I'm painting, I'll add a piece of terrain and say, you know what, that looks better than what I had in mind. Or you change your mind and start taking the painting in a different direction. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, just gonna smear the paint this way. So we're gonna use our light blue and we're gonna fade some of these trees in the background. I know, I can already hear you guys like, what are you doing? Trust me, it's part of the effect. So first we went through, we make sure we added plenty of tree leaves in the background so that when you're fading it, you can still see them there. A little bit there. And a little bit on our terrain. So now you kind of faded it. It's still visible, but it's still a little faded. This is good. This is a good spot where I want it. Good, now that we've faded this out a little bit, let's start working on the layers that are closer to us. One of them being plant life. Now we have trees that are closer to us. These trees aren't affected by the fade that is going on in the background, the mist, the cloud. Making them closer to us. Alright. That's going to add a little bit of black here. The next step we're going to do is we're going to add some plant life to the background. Now, this is going to be, since I'm doing it on one of our neutral colors, one of our blacks, it's going to stand out a little bit more than it would if we would have added it earlier. But that's okay. That's okay. Just gonna add some plant life here, maybe some right here. What do you guys think? It's coming along. Tap tap. Maybe we can add some right here. Now I do keep in mind where the rocks are located. I want to follow the contour of the terrain. Alright, now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna start working on the background a little bit. And look at what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna take our white, I'm just gonna let it sputter into the painting. You guys remember, this is the same as the star technique. Very cool. Now here, I'm just gonna smear the paint clear across. Right, look at that. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of white using our sea sponge. Now we already have a couple of little dots throughout our painting symbolizing the snow that's coming down. So now I'm going to tap into some white. That's pretty good. And then I'm just going to add some some snow on our trees. See that? Perhaps we can add some snow on top of our plant life. See, kind of fluffy. Now in some areas, I may want to add the effect that the snow is piling up on some of our terrain. Look at that. Slowly starting to take shape. All right, then we go back. Tap, tap, tap. Pretty cool, huh? We're going a bit of a transitional piece. If you guys haven't seen some of my tutorials, I've done these in the past where I'll do like a summer piece and then I slowly convert it into a wintry scene. It's not quite what I wanted to do here, but it's just turning out that way. I mean, I did want to do a snowy scenery because right now the weather in Colorado, even though it's not winter yet, it feels like it. Huh? That's all it takes. A couple of dabs. Handy dandy sea sponge. Now I've tried other things, you know, I've seen a lot of guys try socks out there and you name it. They avoid everything I tell them. But you know what? The sea sponge seems to work the best for me. It just gives me the better effects. I've tried the washcloths, you name it, right? It's all about experimentation, trying to find the right tool. And I gotta tell you guys, if you trust my 20 years of experience, then trust me, sea sponge. Sea sponge works really good. And it gives you a diverse effect, a multitude of effects. I mean, as you can see, I'm adding snow here. I can add some highlights while I'm adding the snow. Grass strands throughout the background. Yeah, it's just really neat tool. So as you can see, we've added a little bit more snow in certain areas. Just gonna go through here and pile it up in certain areas. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through, add a little bit more snow. All right, crew. So after a little bit of adding some detail, a little bit of snow throughout some of the plant life that we added, maybe some snow on top of the trees, we finally come up to a point where I think this is good for a background. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add, you know, this already lends itself for a nice little cascade coming down. I'm thinking maybe we can add something a little bit different, perhaps another cascade coming down, maybe on this side. I don't know. Let's just play with it and see what happens. I'm gonna add a little bit of black on just the side of a magazine sheet. I'm gonna add here with our Spraycasso tool. I'm thinking we can add maybe just a nice little terrain right about here. Yeah. That. Maybe, I'm thinking, a nice big terrain here on the side. Alright, so as I was saying earlier, this lends itself to be a nice little waterfall. So I'm going to clean this Spraycasso tool here off. And by the way, guys, make sure that before you get started and start mixing paints, make sure you clean the tool off really good, because otherwise you're going to have some color contamination. So if you wanted a light blue and you have some black on your tool and you go in there and you start mixing it, you know you're going to get dark blue. So we're trying to prevent color contamination. So clean it as best as you can. This paint is dry, so I don't think this will affect it much. But the best thing about the tool is that since it's made out of rubber, it's very easy to clean. Yeah, see that? All right, so I'm gonna add, make sure I shake my cans really good. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of blue and some white on this. Like that. Now, handy dandy tool, watch this. Just gonna smear side to side and then drag down. That's it. And that's all there is to it. I'm gonna take some of this color and I'm gonna start smearing it up here. You can always use a little bit of clear coat. Just like that. Now, of course, we can always go back, add a little bit of white off on the side, and add some of the details. Tap, 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 tap. Add a little bit of black. Now at this point, most of the blue is used on my tool. Gone. So I'm just gonna, I don't have to worry too much about cross-color contamination. I'm just gonna add a little bit of some of this rocky terrain here, and notice what I'm doing here. I'm making sure that it overlaps some of our waterfall. Not too much, but I do want to give it the effect that it is rocky. All right. Now, what we can do here is do some of the techniques that we used on the background here. Watch this. I'm going to spray a little bit of white off on the side. Tap away. I'm gonna start creating some more snowy terrain. And this is a technique that you can definitely use on poster board. So it's not just limited to canvas. I'm gonna add a little bit more white here on the side. Tap, 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 tap. I'm just tapping. Here. Now the trick is to tap and smear and then walk away and do another one. If you keep smearing the same spot, eventually it's just going to turn into a great piece of blob. You don't want that. If it's too much, just clean it off here on the side. And so sometimes you'll see me do this. I'll tap, tap, tap just to see what the paint's gonna look like. See, that's pretty good. I'm gonna try that over here. Maybe some right here. Maybe some that go into the water. I always enjoy doing that to the plant life. A little bit of grass strands that go right into it. Just that's a touch of realism, I think. Let's zoom in. All right. Just gonna add a few more grass strands here. Maybe some right over here. Now, just because we completed the background back there doesn't mean that you can't go back and add, oh, you know, just little bits of strands of grass, or if you feel you see something that needs to be added, you know, feel free to go ahead and add it through it. I'm thinking we could probably use another tree. And you know what I liked? I liked it maybe right about here, kind of going through. Yeah, we're gonna have to go over some of our background layer, but that's not bad. That'll just add to the realism. Right about here. Okay. Ooh, I like that. You know, maybe we can add another one. Yeah, maybe right about here. Nothing that overlaps some of the background that we spend so much time perfecting, but you know, just enough to give you the visual. Yep, there's a tree right here. It's closer to us. It's another layer, and it's growing right there. I like that. I've always enjoyed doing that, adding extra layers, just bringing it closer, bringing it home. That's what I call it, bringing it home, bringing it closer to the viewer. You want a painting where the viewer can feel like they want to go in there and explore. They want to take that path through there and just go see what's on the other side of that ridge. So that's what I try to accomplish by adding layers, you know, bringing them closer and closer. Of course, by doing that, you're going to have to experiment with lighting effects. As you saw in the background, the trees in the background, we added a nice little light blue layer to it just to kind of fade them out You can see that with some of these trees back here. And then, you know, as we started getting closer, we started adding highlights to them. And we want those to be lighter and lighter and lighter and darker and darker and darker as they get closer to you. Alright, let's continue adding some details throughout these rocks. Let's concentrate on the water here. I'm thinking, you know, I've kind of gone back and forth a couple of times with the type of terrain that I was thinking of. I was thinking maybe we could create new terrain here and then just create a little bit of a cliff and then some water. Or we could do just, you know what? Let's just do that. I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of black. Oh, make sure you clean the tips. Okay. A little bit of black here on this area. This is gonna be shadows. Now we're just gonna add blue throughout here. Nice. Okay, a little bit of white. Now we can use our fingers and smear the paint, or we can use our handy dandy Spraycasso tool. Well, either way, they'll both work really well. Okay. All right. Now, using a little bit of, it's not too much of a straight edge, but you can use a magazine sheet, something a little bit more sturdier than that, perhaps the entire magazine sheet here. All right, yeah, I like this one better. So, using a straight edge, could be a magazine sheet, we're just gonna add a little bit of a splash here on our painting. So we're gonna put our painting, our straight edge here. Just like that, look at that. So we're gonna add some terrain. You want to be able to break the land right where you have your, right where your water meets your land, your piece of your terrain here. Here we're just gonna add that here. I think I'm gonna add one right here. Guys, remember our tutorial, blue trees? Well, we're doing the same idea here, the same concept. All right, so here on the bottom, let's zoom in. We've added a couple of different layers. Okay, we've added some additional rocks, a couple of little grass strands, and you guys know how that was done. That was done with a sea sponge. So I just tapped here onto some black right here, and then just kind of went through and added, you know, just bits and bits of little grass strands throughout there. You guys remember this? We did this earlier. We added just some, this is part of the shadows of the rocks. We also added, like you see, some grass strands here on the bottom, rocks here, and some additional grass strands. Make sure we use our Spraycasso tool nice and clean. Tap, 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 tap. All right, and we're gonna add some snow here to some of these rocks. Some here. And we're also going to add a little bit of snow on some of the rocks that we placed earlier. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of black with a new sea sponge. Just gonna tap here, and I'm just gonna add some bushes that are closer to us. It could be grass strands, it could be a combination of things. And what I want to do is I want to have these are closer to us, so they have to be bigger. And we could do a variety of things. Look at that. Maybe something like that. Don't be afraid to overlap your layers. It's the only way you'll add realism, or more realism, to your paintings. So we're just going to add some here. We're going to add some minor details throughout here. So using our C-sponge, just going to tap, 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 tap. See that? That gives us the illusion of little flowers, little plants. Look at that. Now, I'm adding them here because I do intend on going over them and adding some highlights to them, adding a little bit of snow. I mean, we have snow throughout here. So we have some snow throughout here. I want to do the same thing here. Alright. Alright, for the next details, let's get a new sheet. Now guys, you don't have to use magazines. You really don't have to. You can use a palette if you'd like. The only reason I like magazines is because they keep most of the paint on there. It doesn't absorb through the paper. So I'm just going to tear off another piece. So see, you can make a small piece of C-sponge last you quite a long time. No need to buy exaggerant big pieces or anything. Just buy the small ones and you just tear little pieces of it, and that's all it takes. Tap, tap, tap. I'm going to tap here to see what the pattern looks like. Okay, I can work with that. Sometimes I tear off excess pieces. Tap, 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 tap. I like it. Alright, oh, there's a little piece here that's just kind of floating around. Alright. So tap, 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 tap. Alright, tap into some more white here. See this one right here? Maybe we can add a little bit on top of that. Alright. It's coming along, right? Now what you can also do is really clump it on there on some areas. Like really clump it on there. Tap, tap, tap. Alright, so we went ahead and we added some additional highlights. On this side, we've added some a little bit of snow on some of the rocks. And the way you do that is very simple, guys. I think I showed you earlier. We're going to use our white, just a little bit of white. Make sure you pre-shake. A little bit of white. You can use a little C-sponge, like this one. Tap, 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 tap. Get the pattern, get the pattern. Alright, that's a good pattern. And then just go on top and add your little highlights here throughout. And then to add some snow, well, you just tap down, and that's the way you do it. You can add some snow on some of these rocks as well. Very easy to do. Alright, so now we still have some darker tree leaves that are closer to us on this area. We have some of this plant life here on the bottom, some of these rocky terrain. So obviously it's been snowing throughout the entire painting, so we do want to put some highlights on these rocks. We can't just leave them black. Oh, you know what we can do as well? I'm just gonna add a little bit of touch here, little dabs. It's gonna separate the terrain from our land. See that? Just a couple of little quick smears of white, and you can do that very, very easily. Alright crew, and that, my friends, concludes today's episode. I hope you guys had a great time. As always, I definitely did. Thank you for coming with me into this nice little exploration of a winter scenery. It was definitely a lot of fun making it. Alright crew, until next time, keep those cans shaking. See you guys later. Bye.